So before we move on to our next two worksheets, we actually forgot to add some of the detail into some of our vises because, as I mentioned with the salesperson field with the sort, we actually need to add the fields that we created, the calculated fields, into our viz. That way, when we use our parameters in our dashboard, they actually change the data and add to the interactivity. So we just need to throw a few of the fields onto the viz. Starting with our achievement estimated, we're just going to throw that into detail. We have our total compensation, which is going to go into detail. Our OTE variable, which we have, and then we have achievement. Looks like we're just missing achievement quota. Perfect. So make sure you have these fields in your detail. And then we'll go to quota attainment and we'll do the same. So we want to make sure that we have new quota, which is a parameter in our detail. And then we have total compensation in our detail. And looks like we need OTE variable as well. Excellent. So now we should be good to go to start on our next two worksheets, which are going to be more supplementary to our first two worksheets. They're going to be like text objects that will change with our viz. That way it kind of acts as a support to giving us a more like well-rounded view at the numbers. So I'm going to create a new sheet, and this one is going to be called sales. Okay. And all I'm going to do for this is throw measure names onto rows. And then I'm going to throw measure values onto label or text rather in the text card. And so for this, all we want is our sales and our percentage of quota achieved. So I'm just going to get rid of all of these fields until we just have sales and percentage of quota achieved. Now I want sales to be above percentage quota. So I'm just going to drag that over in the card here. So it'll show up like this. And then next, all we have to do is just do some formatting. So the title, we're going to change to estimated sales with a colon. Feel free to make any color changes you'd like. I have this brown color here I'm going to use, and I'll click OK. Actually, just make sure it's bolded as well. Perfect. Okay, so some formatting we're going to do for our text table. If I right click and select format, what I want to do is go to borders, and then in the row divider, I don't want that. And then if I go to the shading here, this little bucket icon, I want to get rid of the row banding and the header as well. That way, right, we just see sales, percentage of quota achieved, and then our two values here. That's all we want to see. Okay, so if I right click on sales and I go format, it brings me to our measure names format. And so in our fonts, I'm actually going to make this probably size, what is it? Probably 12. Let's go with 14. That looks good. And then we're going to make this a nice orange color to make it pop. Maybe we'll bold it as well. Okay. And then, so we can make this go out a little bit farther, because when we do our alignment, we're going to make it go right. Okay. Maybe go a little bit more. So I'll drag this out. Perfect. Okay, so then I'm going to go to our number side here and format our numbers. Okay, so let's see. And our default, probably going to make this around size 15 and bold it, make it a nice black color. Excellent. And so now what we want to do is change the format of our numbers in terms of the way it's presented, right? We don't want it to read this whole like 15,357,000. We just want like a quick overview. So what we want to do is go to sales here in the measure values card and go format. And then we want to make this currency. And for the display units, it's going to be million. That way it just kind of quickly summarizes it. So we get 15.36 million and 75%. Okay, excellent. So now let's go over to a new worksheet, which is going to be called OTE. So this is going to help give us an overview for our OTE worksheet, which was the commission projection. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing with measure names and measure values going into the text. And so we only want the OTE variable. So I'll get rid of everything that isn't OTE. And we're going to want two of them. So what I can actually do is duplicate this. And then we have a copy, right? So we have two of them. And then I'm going to throw this into here. Let's see. I might have missed something. So if I Control Z on my keyboard, I can go back. So what I want to do is actually duplicate this first. So let's duplicate. And I can drag this down here. Now I should be able to get rid of this. Yeah, so when you get rid of all the measure values except one, it'll just go into a default, which is just having it be the label. But in this case, we want two, just the same one that's repeated in a different aggregation. So make sure you duplicate it first and then add measure values into the text and make sure you're left with these two in the card. So I can make this a little bit bigger. That way we know which one's the copy. And the copy is the one that we want to go into the measure and make it the average. So that way we have the sum and we have the average of the OTE, which is great. And then next step is to do some formatting here because we don't obviously want it to say copy. So if I right click where it says copy, I can do edit alias. And then in here, I can change the name to not have copy. Click OK. Now we just have OTE variable, average OTE variable. We're going to do the same formatting that we did in the previous sheet. So for our title name, this one's actually going to be estimated compensation, colon after. I'll make it a nice brown color and bold that. Okay, and then I'm going to right click and format. That way we can go into borders, get rid of our row divider, go into shading, get rid of the banding. That way we're left with just the text. And I'm going to right click and go format again. That way, make this a little bit bigger. Let's see. I think I made this 14. And we'll bold it. And we'll make it a nice orange color. And I will make it, oh, excuse me, make this a little bit bigger. That way when I align it to the right, we have some space there. We want the A to come in just under the O in compensation. Maybe a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so we have that set up. Next, we want to do our numbers. So if I right click, go format, make this 15 and bold with a black color. Okay, and just as we did before, we don't want to see this whole number. We just want to know something quick. So we want to change the display units. So if I go to the measure values card, I'll go measure, or sorry, I'll go format. And then we want currency custom. This is going to be in millions for sales. Excellent. I'll do the same for the copy. And this is going to be thousands with 0 decimal places because it was just the zeros anyway. So you should be left with 5.82 million and 142K. And now we can move on to our dashboard.